Okay, welcome back. I actually don't want to use the podium anymore. Um, we have our last presenter for the morning, and I would like all of you to give a warm applause to Jodie Michael from Australia. Drummer Jodie Michael grew up in Australia and has spent long stretches of time in New York City. She has played with a long list of world-class Australian musicians, including James Muller, James Morrison, Dale Barlow, Bobby Gabbert, and Katie Noonan. In 2011, after completing a Bachelor in Jazz performance at the Sydney Conservatory of Music, she traveled to New York to study with world-class international drummers, including Michael Carvin. She was the recipient of the prestigious 2013 Jan Rutherford Memorial Award. She also performed and studied with Greg Hutchinson, Billy Hart, and Bernard Purdie. Her advisor during the semester has been Bruno Raberg, and we would like to welcome Kenwood Denar. Please, a warm applause for Kenwood in her committee, and Terry Lynn Carrington as well. Jodie Michael.
Thank you, Marco. I just want to start out by saying, so this culminating experience has been a special time for me to research and pursue, because I don't think I'd really start on this track if it wasn't for Danilo and Marco encouraging me to sort of mine my rich heritage as a Middle Eastern, Middle Eastern heritage. My family hails from Lebanon, and I wouldn't have had, I don't think, the courage and compassion to mine that heritage. So I just want to start out and say thank you so much, Global Jazz Institute and Danilo and Marco. So my presentation is called Middle Eastern Rhythms and the Democratization of Gender Roles. So initially it started out as basically a journey into my identity, because I have in the past been sort of not troubled but not encouraged to sort of pursue looking into my background as a Lebanese person growing up in Australia, because I didn't grow up around certain people, of that background and various walks of life. So this has been a journey into my identity, and my mission is to basically, through this CE, is to bridge the connection between my background as a jazz drummer and my Lebanese heritage through well-known and beloved Lebanese folk tunes and original compositions and a jazz standard from a favourite drummer of mine in the jazz canon. I hope through my study into identity, I'd like to encourage artists and audience to delve and mine the resources in which they possess and bring forth a new way of perceiving themselves, and thereby changing their story as a citizen of the world. So, branching out from the boxes they've set themselves and really mine the rich heritage that they've been born with. And that's hopefully what I've tried to capture in this project. And I want to mention, as I was bouncing ideas off with Terry Lynn Carrington last week, she mentioned, every child's potential is equal regardless of gender, and I really did want to bring that point up and sort of exemplify it through this presentation, through the music and through my point, I guess. So artistic expression, as its nature, is a vehicle for opinion. Whoever's voice can be heard is has potential towards validation in their immediate environment. And so I've chosen as a vehicle for this well-known and beloved famous folk tunes that were made famous through the Civil War era in Lebanon in 1970s. So one is called Nasa Malena Al-Hawa, and the other is called Saluni Nes. And they were made famous and sung by Fayrouz. So she was sort of like the Madonna, Beyonce of Lebanon, and kind of still is really beloved in Lebanese culture and music. So the reason I chose to do these is because she embodied empowerment for Lebanese people during the Civil War, when their culture was very fractured and sort of dispersed. And the fact that she could give encouragement to these people, and herself being a female vocalist, I really identified with that, because my ancestry sort of had to deal with various fractural, changes when they moved to Australia from Lebanon. And I wanted to basically So the democracy and equality of gender roles in the arts is reflected in creative equality. So what I mean by that is I wanted to take these folk tunes, and traditionally in Middle Eastern music, it's very much the melody and the vocal line is supported by the rhythm section and the rhythm instruments. And there's not so much of a democratic balance, but I wanted to apply a jazz, social music, improvisatory sensibility to Middle Eastern music, which I haven't heard, for my ears, I haven't heard done in Lebanese music. And I thought I wanted to explore that potential because I want to use these, basically the democracy that is so inherent in what we love about jazz music. I want to apply that to Middle Eastern music as well and see what can come out, because it's basically going to serve as a metaphor for gender equality through instrumental and creative expression, through the artistic voices of each instrument in the ensemble, as you'll hear. So, and that leads me to basically my objective and final point that I want to make, verbally through this presentation is: could the inclusion of female musicians and artists in modern culture in Arab countries contribute to the awareness and social movement towards equality amongst the sexes, in the general environment and situation and the political climate in the Middle Eastern world? So my objective was to create and develop an intergenerational conversation regarding the inclusion of female presence in the arts, predominantly in the Middle East, to challenge gender identity stereotypes relating to ability, roles and cultural significance in the Lebanese, Middle East and global Arab diaspora. And just as a side note, I kind of stumbled upon this fact as a happy accident. I was doing some basically research into Phoenician history, and I just thought I'd bring it up just quickly. In 2380 BC, there was a revered goddess from the Mesopotamian area called Lipushau. She was considered the first percussionist in the ancient Middle Eastern cultures, which I thought was really cool. I might be going down a rabbit hole here, but I just thought I'd like to mention it. There was a time in our history when the primary percussionists and drummers were women. The first named drummer in history was Lipushau. And through my research, I stumbled upon various examples of percussionists being female in ancient history and ancient civilizations, which I thought I'd bring up too. So the first tune, titled Nasam Alena Halwa, the air breezed upon us. So it was written by Ziad Rahbani and performed by Fayrouz, which gave voice to the cultural fracture of civilians created by the Lebanese Civil War, as I mentioned. So the Ika, which is Middle Eastern for rhythmic theme, rhythmic clave, for lack of a better word, is a combination of maksum and wahada. So I'll just skip to the next slide quickly. So as you can see, wahada basita, and on the next couple of slides, you'll see the maksum rhythmic theme. But they're quite simple in their nature, but I kind of wanted to play around with them and sort of embody them on the drum set and see how that goes in sort of like a more democratic setting. So we basically, I had the pleasure of working with some really great musicians who are really well versed in this type of music. Laith Siddiq on vocals and violin, and Vasilis Kostas on the lauto. And I also had the pleasure of playing with Albert Basil on percussion, Benjamin Jefta on the bass, and Noé Zagrun on the piano. And it's basically, we sort of wanted to embody the democracy of jazz improvisational social music through the vehicle of a traditional loved folk song that Fayrouz performed. So we basically incorporated Itijal and Mahwal, which is improvisational themes in Middle Eastern culture. And the theme was on the C-sharp chord Phrygian scale. So I'll just play a little bit so far of Nasam. That's not playing over, right? Okay. apologies. Start again. Sorry, guys.
علينا الهوى من مفرق الوادي يا هوى دخل الهوى خدني على بلادي يا ياللي طاير بالهوى في منتورة طاقة وصورة خدني لعندن يا هوى فزعني يا قلبي اكبر بيها الغربي وما تعرفني بلادي خدني خدني على بلاد
So I just wanted to play a little bit of a excerpt. So I also had the pleasure of, when I was down in New York late last month, late last year, to visit Fayrouz's original percussionist, Michel Mehez. She lives in Staten Island. And I just wanted to print these out. I could put these into Finale, but I just wanted to, just for nostalgia, just put some screenshots of basically the rhythmic themes that he used and basically incorporated during his time with Fayrouz. So as you can see the Masmoudi, Sajir, the Saidi, and the Waheda and the Maksoum, so which is what Albert Basile basically stuck to. And I kind of tried to play around the drum set and make it as creative and sort of make it fresh as possible and sort of take it ahead. So moving on to an original of mine, which is called Beit Kaseb, the village that my family's from in Lebanon. So I wanted to compose a sort of a melody that resonated with me in the Middle Eastern style, but I also wanted to incorporate a drum solo at the start of it, out of time, that in the theme and in the style of Tony Williams in agitation-esque style from the 1960s Miles Davis album ASP. So I wanted to incorporate collaboration and democracy amongst the instrumental voices. And I'll play some excerpts from that. the sake of time, I just might skip to the next tune. So the next one is called Saluni Ilnes, The People Ask Me. Again, written by Ziad Rahbani, performed by Fayrouz, and this is a hybrid rhythmic theme between the Masmoudi and Maksum rhythmic themes. And instead of playing the main theme traditionally the way Fayrouz presented it, which is, I'll just play a little bit of that at the start.
سألوني الناس عنك يا حبيبي كتبوا المكاتيب وأخذ الهوى بيعز علي غني.
I thought I'd break up the melody and basically have a call and response to imply basically the dialogue that I'm trying to embody between my ancestral heritage and my future as a jazz drummer, improvisational musician and drummer. So I'll play a little bit of that too.
كتبوا المكاتيب وأخذها الهوى بيعز علي غني يا حبيبي لا أول مرة ما منكن سوا.
And just to skip quickly to the, thank you, to the trading section. Sorry. Might cut that off for the sake of time. So that was just a little bit of trading between the percussionist and myself. So my last tune was drum music. It was an exchange of melodic and ideas and input intersecting with that of Paul Motions, because this is a Paul Motions tune, and I really am inspired by his output as a drummer. And I thought, just to skip quickly to the next slide, this is a score of Paul's original tune, and I've sort of, on the third and sixth line, I've sort of incorporated my own melody as another metaphor for a dialogue between Paul and mine. So I just wanted to do a few excerpts based on drum music, and instead of having the traditional guitar saxophone trio, I basically I had l'alto instead of guitar, just to have that sort of timbral difference. And then maybe a restating of the melody, just for sake of time. Thanks. So, into the future, I would love to continue this project and continue my study and my outreach towards various countries in the Middle East, especially Lebanon. I'd love to sort of feature my explorations on a YouTube channel with the same ensemble that I recorded with. And I'd love to spread this concept and open up the dialogue between various groups in regards to gender equality, and in the Middle East, with women sort of embodying a higher place in the arts and the music culture. So I want to thank you. I want to say a big thanks to Leif Siddiq, Vasilis Kostas, Albert, Benjamin, Noé, and Liz, the great engineer that I got to work with. And I want to thank Danilo and Marco for this amazing year. And hopefully we can just continue to grow. If I can stop. Thank you.
Jodie, Michael. Great. Okay, so since we have Kenwood in the committee and Terry, I'm going to pass the microphone to Kenwood.
This presentation is wonderful and informative. And how are you prepared to follow up this wonderful presentation in your action?
Right. So I would love to sort of explore more and become more proficient, first of all, in this type of music, because this is out of my comfort zone. I really haven't explored as much as I have, like I have the jazz idiom and the jazz canon on the drum set. So this is something that has a rich and varied culture of rhythmic and melodic possibilities. So something I'd like to do is start, in myself, just to become a better musician through the exploration of Middle Eastern themes. And then basically consider maybe taking some educational project further into the Middle East, into Lebanon, and to maybe continue this project and keep developing with this band, because I really love playing with this band. And I learned so much from this process. So if I can continue this journey and keep writing and keep playing this sort of music, and maybe take it around the States, take it back to Australia, and then maybe take it to the Middle East and maybe do some, if possible, I know it's kind of a tumultuous climate there, if I can do that in Lebanon and Jordan, Syria, maybe the surrounding other countries, I'd love to take it back and dialogue with the musicians there, for sure. Thank you, Kenwood. Thank you.
All right. A very interesting concept, Jodie, as you know, that I think it's a very interesting concept, and of course I'm encouraging you, to explore it more. Especially, gender equity in the Middle East is a very big thing, and you have to have a lot of courage, to do that, to tackle that.
Totally.
There. Okay, so with your future plans, I'm just going to piggyback off of that real quick. Did you say anything about education in it? Because I mean, what I heard is, from looking at the screen and when you talked about you going to play and learning more yourself, but how do you translate this into, and you use the word awareness, but I mean, you doing something can create awareness, but I think you need to have more of a concrete idea of how you can actually spread this message, like through some kind of educational platform.
Totally, yeah. Well, that's something I need to work on and do some research about, because I would love to incorporate maybe opportunities for masterclasses and workshops and bring more of what I've learned here and in Australia to Lebanon, and incorporate that sense of maybe fusion between jazz, social music, improvisational music, and traditional Middle Eastern music as well. So I do need to do some research and figure out what my options are, but education is definitely high on my priority list.
Okay,
for sure.
Yeah, I would like to have seen a little more thought about, in your presentation, the legs that you could have with this concept, because the concept is big and it's good.
Yeah.
But I don't see how it's, from your presentation, I don't see really where it's going still.
Okay.
To have impact.
Cool.
Other than, of course it will have impact on you and the musicians that you play with and gig with and all of that, but how it has impact more than that. I would like to have heard a little more of your personality and in your jazz drumming, like in the music.
Sure.
It kind of felt like you were going into this new area. Like you said, it's a new area. But I would like to have heard more of you playing.
Right.
You know what I mean? More, I mean, at the end, the last piece, you had that. But it's something to consider. I'm assuming you played, you know, like I'm assuming that we only heard snippets, but I'm assuming that there's no places in there where you're just kind of like really playing the way you like to play, the way that you're used to playing, or the way that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to throw myself into the deep end and really sort of not adapt, but try and embody this music as best I could on the drum set. But I know what you mean. I probably should have.
Well, yeah, I just mean like more of your own self, personality, and that would be important, I think. So when you do continue with this, try to emerge a little more. I think this is my opinion of the jazz drumming that you love so much with it. You know what I mean? Or the jazz aesthetic of improvisation.
Okay.
Okay, so your pieces. Okay, so I'm not even going to the pieces yet. I think you could have tied in, like, because we've talked about this, the goddess drummers. I'll just call them that because Lupicia, I think. Anyway, I don't remember the names, but the goddess drummers from ancient history.
Yeah.
You could have, I think, connected that to the theme of gender equity, because on your slide 2 or 3, you had a question, which I felt was like the theme of the project. Well, what is the question on slide 2, the last bit of slide 2 or slide 3? Because I think, that.
So could the inclusion of female and musicians and artists in modern culture contribute to the greater awareness in social and political realms in the Arab world?
Among the sexes. Okay, so I think that when you presented the goddess drummers, you presented it as a sidebar, and that actually answers your question.
Right.
You know what I mean? They answer the question because it's right there in the ancient history.
Right.
So what you're doing is bringing, back to today's times what was already existing.
Right.
So that is kind of like a big part of your presentation.
Yeah.
Right. But so to me, it's definitely not a sidebar. So dig more deeply, I think, into these goddess drummers of ancient times. Let's see. Well, the rhythms from Fairuz, percussionist that you put up, I think it would have been nice to actually just hear the rhythms, like the basic rhythms, just to see how it connects. Especially since you put the music up there, and your song. Well, before I go to your song was you comment on your song. It was beautiful, beautiful composition. I think it was actually my favorite. But what does the title mean, and what was the inspiration?
Oh, Beit Kaseb. It's the village, like municipality my family was born in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and that was the inspiration of the piece.
Because
your heritage back to that village.
Yeah, because I wanted to have that agitation-ish solo, that out-of-time solo, and then I'm sort of going in, sort of slowly building through, Ben making that bass ostinato into the main melody. Sort of me, I kind of wanted that to embody me sort of becoming more confident and approaching, exploring my heritage and not being afraid. So I kind of wanted to embody that through the sort of loose phrasing.
Yeah, it was a really nice composition. So I know this is a new journey. So I would encourage maybe your arranging of Fairuz's compositions or anybody else's compositions to have more, again, of your personality, because I felt like your original piece really kind of nailed it, And drum music, can you explain just the connection between that piece and the project?
Sure. So I wanted to take Paul Motion's piece, and I wanted to have it dialogued with my melodies. So his main theme would come up, and then mine would be played by Lauto, and then Alex, the saxophone player, would restate the melody. That's also basically a vehicle and a metaphor for my dialogue with the jazz canon, and then my experience as an Australian woman with Middle Eastern heritage coming to the United States and attempting to play the jazz music and social music at the highest level I can. And this tune is what Paul plays on most of his gigs, and he uses it as an interlude. So I kind of thought it would be nice to feature it as a piece, because I just like the melody, to be honest, and I thought I could use it as a trading between mine and his.
Okay. All right. I think that's it for my comments. I think that this is a great theme, and that you can explore more deeply, some of the areas, because it's a lot to take on, especially since it's new for you,
Yeah.
So congratulations for even
Thank you.
attempting to do such a massive idea.
Thank you, Terry.
Yeah.
You've been inspiration.
Oh,
yeah.
thanks. All right.
Thanks.
Since we are out of time, I'm going to be very, very, very brief. One question: When did you start developing this project in your mind? Was before or during the program?
During.
During the program. I think it's a very important point to maybe point out how you came across this idea. If you can walk us through a little bit your mind.
Right, like we discussed, I think, a few days ago. I probably, this very BGJI Institute and experience probably wouldn't have given me the courage and permission. I felt like I've been given permission as a drummer, as a human being, to sort of, get into my history and not be confined to the jazz drummer box from Australia, but is now in New York and Boston, that sort of thing. So it's given me the courage and the confidence rather to sort of, to stretch my, I don't want to be cheesy, but stretch my wings in terms of a different direction and see what I can get from my personal history that I can bring back to my jazz vocabulary.
Absolutely, and I think that it gives a perspective to us, to the fact that you're still searching for answers, and probably you have more questions than answers.
Yes.
And it's okay, because it's something that you're relatively still developing new for you.
Yeah.
One comment that I think that the way you presented the music did not pay justice to it. I really like the music. I think you could organize the presentation in a way that the music, we could have aired much more of it, and it's okay sometimes to leave the table with being still hungry. So that's the way I feel.
Okay.
Right. So I wanna listen to it more. But yes, I really enjoy what I heard.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thanks, Marco.
Anybody else? Okay, I'm gonna be quick. I just want to know, congratulations, Jodie. I wanted you to explain me about when you made the comment about Madonna and Beyonce. I got lost a little bit in that comment, but can you expand on that?
So Fayrouz was of that certain level of popularity, I guess, and fame, as that Madonna and Beyonce sort of embody in our modern culture. She was known by everyone, not just in Lebanon, but in surrounding countries, even in the States, Australia, the UK, all through Europe. So the reason I wanted to make a point to say that is because she has a wide range of influence, and her being a female and her sort of helping her country and her former civilians to sort of cope with war times. I just thought it was important to mention that because her voice is heard by many.
That's fantastic. And one of the things I would have, have you thinking as you do this, the part that you talk about the American drumming, for example, you present the reference to Tony Williams, which makes sense to a lot of us. But I think it would be nice also to be encouraged by the same theme that you're trying to develop, which is this intro was inspired by so and so, and make the connection for us to keep the thread
Right.
in going in it.
Okay.
Because I get a sense that, in the theater of confusion, the exit sign is the most important thing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
That life is full of confusion, so we are making decisions, So make sure that whatever word you use doesn't trigger an emotional connection that gets you you don't address the confusion, like,
Totally.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I know what you mean by that,
Yeah.
but I think as a theme development, it would be nice to not use those references because you're trying to make an equity case here, and looking to connect to the background. So keep the main idea alive.
Sure.
I got confused in that thread you did there.
Okay.
Because it became a style kind of thing,
Yeah.
more than your story that you're developing. But that would be my advice.
Okay, great.
But I'm really so excited to see you going through all these levels. Remember, just Toni Morrison has an incredible quote. Is it that I can say that? I mean, I'm not gonna get penalized, but she just didn't say the words. But she say, if you want to fly, you gotta let the shit you gotta throw the shit that weighs you down out the window. So congratulations, all the best. It's been a privilege working with you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Jodie, Michael. Okay, we'll take a break, and for lunch we'll be back at 2. Thank you.